Puja and greetings. I'm Sunut Omya, along with Sunut Setnahasra and Sunut Heru. Welcome to our early morning ancient Egyptian devotional dedicated to Goddess Net and all her mystic forms, gods, and goddesses who are derived from her transcendental essence. The liturgy, which you'll be able to see on screen, is recited in the ancient Egyptian language, the Medu Neter. English and Brazilian Portuguese translation is provided for you. You can see these translations on screen directly below the hieroglyphic text transliteration. You're welcome to participate by chanting along in your worship space or home or wherever you may happen to be during our service, where you're also welcome to listen quietly in a contemplative mode. Following the devotional, Washu, recitation of the liturgy, and meditation or practice, we'll have a brief wisdom or rek teaching by Sehu Keper Ankh, leader and priest of the Shitat Neter Temple of Net. Before we begin, please remember to mute all devices. We will now begin. Presented on the screen at the moment is a stone-carved depiction of the facing pylons of the Temple of Net from the statue of Henat. On the left and right sides are the pylons, in which one of the symbols of Goddess Net sits atop of a power standard. Her emblem is her two arrows crossed and tied to her shield. This symbolizes the protection and resurrection of the soul within this place, the temple. Behind the emblem of Net, on both sides are the flags, which means Neter, or divinity. In the center of the pylons, at the bottom, is the opening to the temple, and above that is a pyramidal structure which symbolizes the four equilateral planes of the universe and the mystic number 4. Above that, at the very top, is the Ka hieroglyph symbol, which means rising. So it symbolizes the sun rising between the mountains, the Aket symbol, and for the initiate, the emergence of spirit consciousness. Jed. Neb nesu merpu neter ne. Jedef nesu hetep dinet perkeru. Menket mert hepsed neb en kaen. Gary heb her tep hetne. Hena ren jeta.
Net nesumer puneter amine. Jedef nesu hetepti net perkeru. Menket mert hepset nep enkaen. Gary heper tep SSN hetne. Ina ren jeta.
Neb nesu merpu neter ine. Jedef nesu hetep dinet perkeru. Menket mert hepsed neb en kaen. Gary Hep Her Tep S S N M Het Net Hena Ren F Jetta
Nat Nasuma Punater Amina Jedef Nesuha Tapti Nat Perkeru Venkat Mert M Heb Set Neb Nkayan Gary Hepper Tep SSN M Het Nat Ina Ren F Jetta
Neb Nesu Merpu Neter Hem Ine Jedef Nesu Hetep Dinet Perkeru Menket Mert M Hepset Neb Enkayan Gary Heb Her Tep S S N M Het Net Hena Ren F Jetta
Nat Nasumer Puneter Amina Jedef Nesuha Tepti Nat Perkeru Menket Mert M Hepset Neb Enkayan Gary Heber Tep SSN M Het Nat Ina Ren F Jetta
Neb Nesu Merpu Neter Hem Ine Jedef Nesu Hetep Dinet Perkeru Menket Mert M Hepset Neb Enkayan Gary Heb Her Tep S S N M Het Net Henat Ren F Jetta
Nat Nasumer Puneter Amina Jedef Nesuha Tapti Nat Perkeru Venkat Mert M Hepset Neb Nkayan Gary Heber Tep SSN M Het Net Ina Ren F Jetta Dua Amun Kerefu Ben FM Heru Akuti Anate Chirkira Nefer Nebuben
Dua Amun Ketefu Ben Efemeru Akuti Anete Shirkira Nefer Nebu Ben
Oh, yeah. Bastu Onya, we can hardly hear you. It's very, very thin.
Dua Amun Kerefu Ben FM Heru Akuti Anate Chirkira Nefer Nebuben
Dua Amun Ketefu Ben Efemeru Akuti Anete Shirkira Nefer Nebu Ben
Dua Amun Kerefu Ben FM Heru Akuti Anatetekera Nefer Nebuben
Dua amu ketefu ben fem haru akuti anetej her kera nefer nebu ben
Dua mu kerefu ben fm heru akuti anatecher kira nefer nebuben.
Dua amu ketefu ben fem haru akuti anetej her kera nefer nebu ben
Adi jen sekert sech udhu. Kef udhu. Nesudi hatep net perkeru. Didi eska uab amuneb nefer shepsi et net
Nesuti hetebnet perkeru Didi eska uabamuneb nefershepsi Hedne hete
Nesudi hatep net perkeru. Didi eska uab amuneb nefer shepsi et net
Nesuti hetebnet perkeru Didi eska uabamuneb nefershepsi Hedne hete
Nesudi hatep net perkeru. Didi eska uab amuneb nefer shepsi et net
Nesuti hetebnet perkeru Didi eska uabamuneb nefershepsi Edne ete
Nesudi hatep net perkeru. Didi eska uab amuneb nefer shepsi et net
Nesuti hetebnet perkeru Didi eska uabamuneb nefershepsi Edne ete Tua Shamsu en Nebajer Seshu en Keperu Dua Asar Nebrastau Pau Netaru At Ami Netakart Anatej Her Ke Kenti Amentet U Nefer Her Abdu Matentu Aiku en Nek Arati Rastau
Seteka sekert. Aku sari nahas. Ubed Center, Set Mka, Def Sit Neter, Oni Entet, Hana Yashem Neter, Asa Erdit Endek en Ari Heru, Hana Herme Endes Ari Heru, Ausu Watepi. Ari Sedge, Abba, Ua Neter, Abu Pen Ha Asar, Abu Pen Asar, Spur M Heru, Arit Hurt, Nehasa, Uajit Pa Neter, Asar, Ari Heru Het M, Aset, Abuyen Tuchen.
Medjay Aset Sam Wajet Setep Sa Her Amseti Enti Sa Asar Sa Amset Asar Pu Amset Medjay Nebhet Hap Sheta Ari Besa Her Happy Enti Sa Asar Sa Happy Asar Pu Happy Medjay Net Sedura Semisher Her Ne Her Ari Mak En Duamatef Enti Sa Asar Sa Duamatef Asar Pu Duamatef Medjay Seket Enka Ke Sekadet Sa Her Neb Ari Mak En Kepsenef Entet Sa Asar Sa Kepsenef Asar Pu Kepsenef
Ya Neter, Emnuen, Duacheta, Ya Neter, Emnuen, Duacheta.
Nebuchadnezzar Jed Anatej Her Ke Asar Putra Makti Sake Setu Sakake
Magdi Sake Setu Sakake.
Nebuchadnezzar Jed Anatej Her Ke Asar Putra Makti Sake Setu Sakake
Magdi Sake Setu Sakake.
Nebuchadnezzar Jed Anatej Her Ke Asar Putra Makti Sake Setu Sakake
Magdi Sake Setu Sakake.
Nebuchadnezzar Jed Anatej Her Ke Asar Putra Makti Sake Setu Sakake
Makti sake setu sakake.
Arijan Sakart. Ari Duakar.
Ekau Uashu. Net net duanet sefakera senue.
Net net duane. Sefekera senhue.
Net net duanet sefakera senue.
Net net duane. Sefekera senhue.
Net net duanet sefakera senue.
Net net duane. Sefekera senhue.
Net net duanet sefakera senue.
Net net duane. Sefekera senhue.
Amun mut konsu.
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 Om Amurapata.
Om Amun Rapata.
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 Om Asara Seheru.
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 Eru Makeru.
Heru Makeru.
Eru Makeru.
Heru Makeru.
Eru Makeru.
Heru Makeru.
Eru Makeru.
Heru makeru. Ase. 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 Ase.
Amahoera nepe ankuja sene arineteru
Ama and Ra Nepe Ang Uja Sene Arineteru
Amahoera nepe ankuja sene arineteru
Ama and Ra Nepe Ang Uja Sene Arineteru
Amahoera nepe ankuja sene arineteru
Ama and Ra Nepe Ang Uja Sene Arineteru
Amahoera nepet akuja sene arineteru juara
Ama and Ra Nepe Ang Uja Sene Arineteru Duara
nuk hatien keperu
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 Nuk Hatian Keperu.
Eteru, 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 eteru,
Heru. 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 Heru.
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 duatu heru, duatu keru,
Dua tu heru. Dua tu heru.
duatu heru, duatu keru,
Dua tu heru. Dua tu heru.
duatu heru, duatu keru,
Dua tu heru. Dua tu heru.
duatu heru, duatu keru,
Dua tu heru. Dua tu heru.
nuk nebejer,
Nuk Nebejer.
nuk nebejer,
Nuk Nebejer.
nuk nebejer,
Nuk Nebejer.
nuk nebejer,
Nuk Nebejer.
nefer remtra in aton,
Neferemcha en Aton.
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 makeru emba nebejer,
Makeru emba Nebejer.
makeru emba nebejer,
Makeru emba Nebejer.
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 Nuk ua kua.
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 Nukmat, 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 nukmat.
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 Nut,
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 nut, nut, nut,
nut.
nut.
Asar, 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 asar.
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 Asar, 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 asar. Pete, Au Ankh. Jed Uwas Hena Nefu Erkepetu. Embaat Jasu Sunut Hetep. Aset or Soja. Heru Soja. Menut Nebusen Efsen Asar Aset Hetepi Soja. Aitu Yasser. Neshu Nebu Hu Shemau Metau. Tau Sep Nebu Nesh Thirta. Uamenti Heru Kut Teken An. Ab Desu Kem. Hena Sefer Hara. Jedit Kat Hena Asar Pata Keperu. Medu Tura Kat Nebi Asar Keperu. Uahai Uakar.
Nuk Aset. Perke Nayet. Ret Inau Seter Samedu. En Jehuti Tep. Maat Empet. Ta Atert Aset Neter. Nefer Ger Pu Ank Seske. SDA Ament. Ursa Enken. Pu F NN. Hau F Ready F. Nebkep Dit Hetep. F Her FT Ent NF Tawi. Uahai Uaker. Heru Makeru.
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 Heru Makeru. Netait Mesra. Netait Mesra. Netait Mesra. Netait Mesra. Nu kepera M duau. Ra M auf. Temu ami masher. Nu kepera M duau. Ra M auf. Temu ami masher. Nu kepera M duau. Ra M auf. Temu ami masher. Uahai uakar.
Success.
Ua sheri. Ua tef aha. Aha em mater. Emma ra 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 em mater. Emma em mater. Emmaha, Emmater, Emmaha, Emmater, Emmaha, Emmater, Emmaha, Emmater, Om Hete, 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 Hetep.
Jack, greetings. We don't have, I don't have camera today, so that's the only issue. I'll pause the recording for a moment. And then we'll continue. Pause recording. So I think we're at 13. And have not eaten heart mind. I have not eaten my heart with anguish, dejection, jealousy, self-recrimination, remorse, or envy. I think we did that one actually. So I think we're not invaded I. I have not invaded any place. And this is very telling that the sages would have instituted such instruction in the 42 precepts of Maat. And these precepts were written during a later period, not during the earliest period. So these were written during when the changes were happening in ancient Egypt and Kemet. And there were actually invasions by foreign powers coming into Kemet and disrupting the civilization and high culture. And the sages referred to the invaders as barbarians, but not from a hateful perspective, but from a perspective of the psychology, of the understanding of the psychology of the invading groups, and what the sages and the clerics, meaning the priests and priestesses, had to deal with. During the Greek period, when the Ptolemaic kings or the Ptolemaic pharaohs started to obtained power in Kemet. And they started to make certain adjustments. And this is all documented, actually. Started to make certain adjustments to the hieroglyphic text. And actually, if you go to Egypt today, go on your travels, you can see where some of the adjustments were made. If you go into certain temples, like the late period temples, such as Dendera and Aset, you can see where adjustments were made. And some of these adjustments were not in line with the original teaching. And that's the central issue of foreign powers coming in. Is it they usurp power or they gain power? But they bring a different cultural context to the seat of power. And that's highly problematic from the perspective of philosophy and the understanding of the nature of soul. And some of the sages were rebuking and refuting these adjustments that were being made. One of the most prominent adjustments was the institution of new glyphs. The Greeks instituted something like 100 new glyphs or something of that nature. And so their texts, some of the texts are not very, say, congruent. So that's one of the major issues. And if you're in Kemet and the invaders are coming in and you agree with what's happening, then from a psychic perspective, then you are as the invader, because you are agreeing with the institution of dogma and changes that were not there before. And during the Roman Empire, when the Greeks were conquered by the Romans, and pretty much had to acquiesce the power in Egypt to the Roman Empire. And when the Roman Empire rose up, they were worshiping what commonly referred to in a mystical culture as pagan gods and goddesses. They had their own pantheon, their own. And this is after the Greeks were adopting the ancient Egyptian gods and goddesses and adopting them to their own pantheon of divinities. And during the Roman Empire, this was a very tumultuous time in Northeast Africa, because this is the downfall period where things were falling apart. And we think that period was bad, but it went into a very dark period after the downfall of ancient Egypt, which held sway for a very long time, for centuries. In the geological study of the Sphinx monument, we know that it was carved in a period at least 10,500 BCE, and that's a very conservative date. Probably more like 36,000 BCE was when it was first carved. So the ancient Egyptian spiritual culture held sway for a very long time. And so the downfall period was very tumultuous. It was very dire. You had a refugee situation where the indigenous inhabitants were leaving. They were leaving, and during the Roman Empire, one of the main reasons why they were leaving, and leaving meaning they were migrating back into the interior of Africa, the continent that is commonly referred to as Africa. And they were also moving towards the west of Africa, because things were so bad. And one of the reasons why they were leaving was because the Roman Empire converted to Christianity, to Catholicism. And through that conversion, they outlawed what was referred to as the pagan gods and goddesses, and the Roman Empire, in its conversion to Christianity and closing down the temples and outlawed the worship in the temples, that directive is still in effect today. It's against the law to practice the ancient Egyptian religion in the temples as they stand now, and that so even today, people who are drawn to Shetaut Neter are experiencing the effects of the conversion of the Roman Empire to Christianity while it held power in Kemet. That's what you're experiencing when you go there. And they kicked out the priests and priestesses from the temples, and they converted some of the inner shrine rooms to Christian chapels. They dug into the glyphs and made chapels and frescoes of Christian iconography in the temple. And so many of the people left, they abandoned the area, and the Christians were so zealous in their repudiation of the Kemetic system, and that they, at this point, this is a late period, there was a large library in Alexandria that had scrolls, papyrus scrolls of philosophy and teachings and Kemetic, presumably we could say, many scrolls from the Book of the Dead and other scriptures were held in the library at Alexandria, which was a city that was created by Alexander the Greek. And the Christians ransacked the library and burnt the books that were not able to be saved. And the Greeks saved some of the more some esoteric works related to Jehuti, like the Kabbalion and the Perfect Sermon, etc. It was written in Greek and then converted into English during the Middle Ages in Europe. So this invasion caused conversion caused a serious disruption of of the spiritual culture of Africa, and for that matter, the world. And then what happened was the kind of Christianity that was adopted has serious implications for gender roles, because they pretty much cut out the goddess. And you think about what it means to cut out the goddess. So if you cut out the goddess, then you're cutting out Maat. So you're cutting out moral, ethical righteousness and truth. And you cut out a set, so you cut out wisdom. And then you cut out segments, so you cut out power, or power for higher consciousness. And then the women in your society then become second-class citizens. They have to fight for the right to vote, for the right to be treated equally, etc. And then the culture, the philosophy, the religious idea or dogma then becomes highly paternalistic and aggressive. And so then you have conquering wars by religions, and the ransacking of Europe during the Middle Ages, where the women who would go out in the fields and pick herbs and flowers and worship stones and crystals and things like that were burnt at the stake, and they were called witches. And this is all the effect of forced conversion and invasion. These are the physical effects, the effects of repudiating spiritual culture. And that's why you have the world the way it is today. You can drop a nuclear bomb on people, and it's like nothing. You can wage world wars and commit all sorts of atrocities, because the mysticism has been rejected, and has turned into a faith-based assertion or principle of worship. And if you have only faith without mysticism, you have no guiding principle of spirit, really. Because you're believing in something that is that is beyond your capacity to conceive. While in a mystical philosophical idea, your faith is to lead you to something that you are to conceive as a direct mystical experience of one's own inner divine nature. So it's faith that's informed by the spiritual process, the spiritual evolutionary experience of a human being. And then if you have, once they convert population to faith, then they're easily controlled. And that leads to other issues, serious issues. One of the most serious, from the perspective of African culture, was was slavery and all of that. And I don't know if you noticed, but the if you look at the movie Roots, when Kunta Kinte was, he was being beaten and he had to take a Christian named Toby. He was already, those people were already conquered by Islam. They converted to Islam. And because he had more of a exotic sounding name, then was beaten and converted to Christianity. There's a whole debacle that occurred that humanity has not recovered from and has not shown any signs of maturity to recover from as a human society, as a human culture. They cannot come to a resolution of what has been done and grow from it. So that's one aspect. The other aspect is allowing your mind not to be invaded. And who is the invading power of your mind? Is your ego. Invaded by negative thoughts and feelings, ideas and concepts that leads to unrighteousness and untruth in a personality. And how you prevent that invasion of the ego taking over the conceptual process of one's own mind is that you have to purify your mind. You have to clear the field of danger. And by that I mean the aria that causes the disturbances in the mind. For example, the aria that lead to argumentation, lead to fighting, or that brings disaster. And so that's an invasion that you can do something about. And if the mind is purified and cleansed, then no physical invasion can really disturb you. You realize that during the transatlantic slave trade, there were many people that committed suicide. They refused to go into bondage and slavery. They jumped over. If you know that you are not only know intellectually, but understandingly through realization that you are spirit soul, then leaving this worldly life is it's like nothing. I'm not advocating suicide. I'm not saying that, so don't take it the wrong way. What I'm saying is that if you have true understanding of one's divine nature, then the world truly has no power over you. And so you can't be invaded by negativity, negative thoughts, holding on to the world, holding on to negative concepts and ideas that brings about pain and suffering. You're able to let go easily by understanding. So the ego can't come in and tell you, life is worth everything. You have to keep living and you have to keep going on in the face of immense degradation. Just one example. What about the example of someone yelling at you and cussing you out or whatever? And if your mind is clear, if your mind is not being invaded by negative thoughts and feelings, you know, okay, that person over there, they're yelling, cussing, but this is all illusory. Let them vent, and then if they want to, we can have a sane discussion afterward, but you will not fall in the heatedness of the ego. your mind is clear from the invasion of the ego. But the ego is always trying to invade you. They are like the barbarians across the desert that are constantly lurking to get to you. And that's your own ego. As soon as you relax and think that you're all good, and next thing you know, negative thoughts and feelings come in. So you always have to be vigilant, looking out for the invader. And the invader, his name is Set. And he is constantly looking to accost you, to lead you away from the peace and tranquility that is required to discover one's own Nebuchadnezzar nature. And he is waiting, setting traps. You know, he has the coffin ready with your size. He knows your dimensions. And that means that the ego knows your propensities, your proclivities, and your weaknesses. And it's waiting, lurking to attack you, to encase you in fits of anger or rage or lust or whatever. And so you have to be on guard. And that's Heru. That is shining the light and dispelling the darkness of the mind, and therefore repelling the invader. And by repelling the invader, then you remain in a state of tranquility that leads to meditative equipoise. And once that equipoise is achieved, then you can go into the depths of spirit. But you have on a plane of mind, you have to be in constant vigilance against the invader, who's always lurking, trying to take over your territory. And what is your territory? Your territory is calm mind. That is your territory. That is the field upon which Heru discovers the expansive light of consciousness that is Behudet. And so during those periods of tranquility of mind, you must be vigilant, because the ego is going to try to invade that field of tranquility, to disrupt it. Why? Because as long as your mind is tranquil, the ego has no power, has no play. And the tranquil mind is actually an antithesis to the force of the ego. The ego needs to be hot, it needs to be agitated, it needs to be heated for it to maintain its temporal existence, which its existence is pure illusion. But if you allow yourself to become duped by that illusion, with your optical play in the mind through your Arya, then the ego will invade your tranquility, which is your field, your domain, your territory. Your territory is not out in the desert where it's hot, in the hilly terrain where it's hot and it's rough and it's rugged. Your terrain, your domain, is the tranquility of mind. And the ego is always trying to invade that. Always. Until you reach a very high level where you are abiding in that tranquility. Until then, you must always be on the lookout for the invader. His name is Set, and he's rooted in your own mind as your ego. The key is realizing its illusoriness. Once you realize its illusoriness, then you can parry. You can, like the Kung Fu masters, that parry the blows. You move left and right, duck, and it doesn't get you. Okay, so we'll talk more about that next week. Anyway, dua everyone for joining in, and we'll continue. Dua Maat Precept.